Good afternoon, folks. Hope you're doing well. We are going to be continuing to cover the story around the Charlie Kirk assassination for today. As we've seen Canadian politicians come out and speak on this, Poilievre spoke on it today. We'll be discussing that, but as well as updates on what has currently happened, which I'll update you with now. We do know that they have recovered the weapon, which was discarded in a forest, or a wooded area, I should say, as they would describe it. And then they also now have photos up of a person of interest, which again, we will then specify what that really all means. And that's kind of what we have at this point. We'll discuss further. From The Independent, it says, search for a suspect. FBI release image of person of interest after ammo found with trans and anti-fascist messaging. Photos of a person of interest in the killing of Charlie Kirk were shared Thursday by the FBI as investigators continue their manhunt for the killer. Few details have been shared about the assassination of the right-wing activist and youth organizer. Yes, we know the story. Authorities said they recovered a high-powered bolt-action rifle in a nearby wooded area. Ammunition inside the rifle was engraved with messages of transgender and anti-fascist ideology, the Wall Street Journal reported, citing a law enforcement bulletin and source familiar with the investigation. The FBI declined to comment to The Independent. Video footage of the suspect, who appears to be of college age and blended in with students on campus, is being analyzed, Utah Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bo Mason said. Investigators are also looking into a palm imprint, forearm imprints, and footwear impression of the suspect. The suspect was seen on the video arriving on campus at 11:52 a.m. From there, he moved through stairwells and onto the roof. The shooting location, investigators said. He was later seen moving across the roof and jumping off the building to flee campus. Investigators said they have no idea how far the suspect may have gone overnight. Again, something I've been seeing from other creators, and I think this is a very specific point, is they were talking about a person of interest. It's not necessarily a suspect, and that's something we have to be very cautious with in our language when it comes to around this. This person could be someone who saw the person who shot, maybe saw a person who came down the stairwell. This may not be someone who actually actively did or carried it out. So I think that's something to be cautious of, but that is the photo that they are sharing. As you're seeing here, this is another, the photo, as well as the photo of the individual and person of interest that they have in they have in their sites at this point in time. So that's what we know. That's what we have so far, and we're going to continue to update you as much as we can throughout this whole process. It's obviously a wild time. A lot of people are pointing fingers, wanting answers, understandably so. But we also have to be very cautious to make sure we also don't put anybody else in harm's way unnecessarily so, because information was shared carelessly at this point. But this is where we stand. This is where we are at as of 1 p.m. Eastern time today, September 11th on a Thursday. That's what we know. That's what we have. But the fact of the matter is because the weapon in question had trans and anti-fascist messaging in it, is leading people to believe that this was now pointing likely to a political assassination. Obviously, that was the assumption, necessarily so, because of who Charlie Kirk is, but you couldn't be certain until, well, now this is starting we're starting to narrow down on what this is actually looking like. Because of media propagandization, this is what you are going to get: legitimized violence against political figures in the U.S., and won't be surprised if it starts making its way north of the border. So much so that Pierre Poilievre, before talking about crime in the GTA, want to take time to share about the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Thank you very much, everyone. Before I begin, please allow me to offer my condolences to the family and loved ones of Charlie Kirk, the 31-year-old father of two who was mercilessly assassinated yesterday at a university campus for having expressed contrary views. Universities are supposed to be places of debate where differing opinions can be offered and exchanged in peace and security. We must all unite, regardless of our political views, around a simple principle: political violence is never acceptable. Every person should be free to express their opinion without fear of violence.
And we really appreciate that messaging coming from the official opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre. And he's correct. It's things that we're all talking about. It's what we're saying, is you should be able to express your political opinion without fear of being assaulted, being harmed, or being outright killed. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. However, this is the problem we are currently having, is CBC is continuing to not learn their lesson. They're continuing to do what they do, continue to fan the flames of division here in Canada on issues like this. CBC brought on Barbara Perry from Center on Hate, Bias, and Extremism to talk on the Charlie Kirk issue. And just listen to what she had to say by the end of this clip.
Risen to this level of violence in terms of lethal violence, but we've seen attacks here as well.
I think that's such an important point to make, and I tried to do that this morning. We don't have the suspect. We don't know the full motivation, but it certainly is occurring at a very politically charged time. And you only need to go online to see the reaction from both sides to what has happened, to know what is spoken to there. I don't know if you've done that at all, Barbara, in the last 12 hours or so. What have you seen there, and what concerns does that raise for you?
Yeah, I've had a little bit of time to look, and it is very disconcerting what we're seeing, especially from from Trump and his supporters as well, where they are calling him a martyr. There are some in online spaces that are calling for further violence, retaliatory violence. So I really fear that this will lead actually to an escalation, as the left in particular is vilified in many of these narratives, and quite explicitly in an ex-post comments by Trump from Trump yesterday, which really did put the blame soundly at the feet of the left and of liberals, and by extension Democrats as well. Into this.
You heard it there. So stunned and again playing the victim and shocked that, oh man, why they just always put the blame at the left's feet. The left is the focus of the blame on this one. I don't really get, I don't know. Insinuating that it's not fair, even though, I don't know, this was released. Looks like a leftist ideology to me. Sure, we could be going to, it might be a false flag. It could. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that one, guys. It could be. Doubt it. It's kind of like how the assumptions went yesterday. It's like, yeah, it was likely someone who was on the left wing. Likely. We'll see. And then this popped up. Like, well, that was engraved in the bolts of the gun. Oh, okay. Surprise. And as more information comes out, I'm certain the assumptions will be proven true. So when you have stories like this and people just stunned and clutching their pearls, like why would they ever want to put this at the feet of the left? Like this, not true. All we've been seeing is violence from the left, my friend. The vitriol, the constant of trying to cancel people, trying to get people to lose their jobs if they express the wrong thought, all the way up to someone dying because they don't think the same things that you think. That's where we're at. And CBC is continuing to play this game where they're trying to frame, change, and move the narrative so people do not feel empathy or sympathy for what Charlie Kirk and his family are going through. We see another article today. CBC drops this. Here's just a list of some of Charlie Kirk's most controversial takes. Okay. What are we doing here? What was the point of this? And CBC does what they do best. They went point form, grabbing everything and pulling it out of context and then just throwing it into a column to continue stoking the flames of division. And people can look at me and say, Josh, man, you need to stop this. Like, you're rage baiting people. You get people frustrated. Bah, 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 bah. Guess what? Don't care. How about stop posting stuff like this? And maybe this type of content will stop. Because we are getting sick and tired of it. I'm getting sick and tired of it. How about you just take a breather? How about you take your own advice and let's calm the temperatures a little bit? No? You're going to keep increasing them and telling us to chill out? The gaslighting needs to stop. Desperately needs to stop. I'm going to finish off with this. Continue on with Pierre's address. He goes into the crime happening in the GTA right now and some of the stories that have happened of other people losing loved ones due to uncontrolled crime. Thank you to the likes of people like Sean Fraser, okay? Here we go.
And speaking about fear of violence, this house here behind me, the owner has spent $100,000 on extra security, bulletproof windows, camera systems, alarms, electric fencing in certain parts of the home. I won't get too specific because I don't want the bad guys to know exactly where and what he's got. But can you imagine spending $100,000? Do you know before the Liberal government you could buy a house in some parts of Canada for under $100,000? Now that's what it costs to secure your house. Crime is raging out of control. And you heard the stories of the courageous victims behind me today, telling their stories. You know, I find it incredible that Sean Fraser, Minister of Injustice, the man who ruined our entire immigration system before Mr. Carty then promoted him to be responsible for the crime crisis, he said the other day, this is not the Wild West. Really? Has he talked to these victims? A woman who's had to leave the country of her birth to live in another nation because she's afraid of her ex tracking her down? Has he talked to the family of Aleem Farouki, the courageous father who rose in the middle of the night to defend his kids and lost his life in front of those children? The three cowardly scumbags who carried out that attack, I bet you anything they have already been arrested in the past. You know, I had one family member of a crime victim the other day say, Sean Fraser is right. It's not a Wild West. It's a war zone in some of these communities. People in these neighborhoods are terrified. They are genuinely afraid of the crime that is raging in our streets. And these are not just stories. This is not sensationalism. This is data and facts. Here's what the facts say if you believe Statistics Canada. Under the Liberals' catch and release system, extortions are up 330%. Sexual assaults up 76%. Violent crime up 55%. Homicides up 29%. A majority of Canadians told a pollster that they worry a lot or worry sometimes about their own personal safety. A majority of Canadians are now afraid to live in Canada after a decade of these Liberal laws.
And that goes part and parcel of what I'm talking about today. What we're talking about in terms of the beginning of the story happened in the States. However, over time, we've started to see remnants of that happening here in our country. I don't want to see political violence happen here, but I'd be stupid to say that it couldn't happen here to this degree. We've already been seeing it in like little pieces where we're seeing MPs constantly harassed and all this. It could ratchet up, and it will ratchet up if this stuff keeps happening too, or where normal people are being terrorized because the government refuses to do anything about it. Instead wants to sit in their little house in Pictou County, Nova Scotia and say, oh, there's no problems here. It's not the Wild West. Instead of doing his job, getting off his butt, going to Toronto, going to the GTA, going to Vancouver, going to Ottawa, and actually sitting in his communities and seeing what is happening. My patience for Sean Fraser and the rest of that Liberal cabinet is razor thin. Getting sick and tired of the gaslighting. Getting sick and tired of you guys lying to us. And I'm getting sick and tired of you guys saying that guys like Poilievre lying to us. When he's simply just quoting things like Stats Canada. Simply looking at the data. And because he points it out, he's a bad guy. Meanwhile, you get to sit in Pictou County, Nova Scotia. In a remote location with your family. And be okay. While families are losing their loved ones. Are terrorized every night. And don't know what to do in the GTA. Enough is enough. But that's just where we're at. But anyways, enjoy your afternoon. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.